And it's an action movie rewind here on Mackey and Judd, part of the Score North umbrella of movie review franchises. That's right. We've done rom-com reviews. We have done sports movie reviews. I wanted to get you guys into horror movie reviews at some point, which I still think we can do. This is Action Movie Rewind. We do deep dives into some of the most prominent and popular action movies of all time. And gentlemen, it's time to duck for cover. Time to dive down into the cellar, hide for your lives, because we're going to review Twister, the 1996 blockbuster classic, on today's show. Are you ready for one of the most terrifying movies of my childhood?
Yes.
I saw it in the theater at the age of 26.
Okay. You were old enough to be able to not have mental anguish as an 11-year-old. Like,
but as a kid, it would have scared
5.
me.
I was like 5 when it came out, and this was also, though, a regular rental of mine at Blockbuster.
Oh, wow.
A very regular rental of mine at Blockbuster, at the local Blockbuster.
How old were you when you first saw this movie?
I was, in fact, I remember it very vividly. I think I was about 8 years old. So my parents took a trip to Ireland with like their 2 family best friends for like a week-long 10-day vacation. And my sisters, I'm an oopsie. Let's just put it that way. My sisters are 10 and 12 years older than me. So they were more than equipped, plus like, aunts and other family friends helping out a little bit, to watch my brother and I while they were on this Irish vacation. And my sister took me to Blockbuster. I remember this very vividly. And I had never seen Twister, but I've heard about it. And I was like 8, 9. And my parents probably would have let me rent it regardless. But I remember watching this for the first time. And because they were in Ireland and they were gone, it was a parent-free week. That's the first time I watched Twister. And it's been probably also like, I've only seen this maybe once or twice since like renting it all the time over the last 10 years. But yeah, that was my first time watching it.
Okay, I went through a phase, and I think this phase started a little before I saw the movie Twister, but I went through like a 2 or 3 year phase in the mid-90s. I was born in 1985. This is probably like 94 through 96, around the time this movie came out, where I was terrified of tornadoes.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being at some outdoor picnic with my dad. It was like work, you bring your kids to work type of a thing, and there was an outdoor picnic, and so we're outside at some park, and there's a canopy with like picnic tables, like a concrete canopy and picnic tables, and tornado sirens start going off, and the wind starts going crazy. We all had to duck for cover under the picnic tables and stuff, and I was like 9 years old, and for the next 2 or 3 years, anytime it got windy in the summer, I would start to get nervous, and so this movie only made that worse when I was inexplicably allowed to watch it as a 12-year-old. But here's the summary. Did you ever have an irrational fear of weather or tornadoes, Judd, or did you just watch this movie with eyes wide open?
At 26, I didn't care. When I was a kid, yes. The two things that scared me as a child were tornadoes, frightened me, and my house burning down frightened me.
Oh.
We saw, when I was in grade school, they showed us, well, I mean, this is the 70s, and the clip was probably from the 60s. This, like, what to do if your house catches fire. And the start is these kids playing in their basement with, like, with those sports cars on tracks. I forget what, and like, it shorts out when the kids are sleeping and the house starts on fire. But, like, that scarred me.
To you.
That's terrifying.
That scarred
dude.
me. That scarred me. It's like, oh my God, a fire could start in another room and I'm not going to know. And, it becomes, to your point, Phil, irrational. Like, you just get, like, overly, like, instead of being like, oh, cool, I saw this film and it's going to help me, you're like, my house is going to burn down tonight.
Yes.
So.
Yes, that's how I felt. Like it would be 15-mile-an-hour winds and fully sunny outside, and I would be like, "Oh my God, there's a tornado coming! We're all gonna die." And my mom would be like,
"But it's
Shut
scary
up.
when you're little."
And I'm not sure with my family like grew up as a family who loves storms. Like we had a screen porch in our backyard. We have a protective front porch. So we were the family, like if there was severe weather going on, instead of getting in the basement, we would be outside on the porch watching it unfold. Okay. So like I was all about that, and I still am to this day. Like if there's a thunderstorm going on, like I'm ready to rock. Let's go look at that thunderstorm.
Yeah. Did you guys? One thing I've always been fascinated by, even to this day, is, and it's not as prominent now because I think TV stations are a little bit more judicious with breaking into coverage of a TV show because everyone's got weather alerts on their phones and stuff. But 20 years ago and before, if there was a storm happening that night, I mean, local news would just break in and they'd just be on for like 5 hours, right?
Yes.
And so watching the warnings come in. They'd have people calling in and giving updates. You listen to the radio, WCCO radio. Like, I was kind of fascinated. Once I got over the trauma of my, age 9 through 12 and became more of a teenager, I was fascinated by listening to storms unfold on the radio, watching on TV.
Until you started to like golf, and then you couldn't stand it because it would be like the Masters and be like, whoop, whoop, whoop.
Well,
we
that's
break
true,
into
yeah.
the Masters, like, get off the TV.
Yes, don't interrupt my
You know what I've
my,
always
my,
said
my
quickly?
bachelorette viewing. Yeah.
I've always thought that storm coverage should be bid on like sports, and one station gets it. So like CCO, if they don't get it, can't cut into the Masters. It's like Channel 5, right? If you want storm coverage, go to Dave Dahl on Channel 5 because they won the bidding for storm coverage.
How much would that bidding be worth if you had a radio, maybe less now, but 20 years ago, if one radio, or WCCO radio, or 5 Eyewitness News, would you pay $1 million a year in rights fees to just get access to you? You are the only station that can cut in live for.
And like the rest of them had to say, we can't cover this, so you got to go to Channel 5.
Sorry, you're unsafe watching our channel right now. All right, here's the summary of Twister. During the approach of the most powerful storm in decades, university professor Dr. Joe Harding, played by Helen Hunt, and an underfunded team of students prepare a prototype for Dorothy, the groundbreaking tornado data gathering service conceived by her estranged husband, Bill. When Harding tells Bill that Dorothy is ready for testing and that their privately funded rival, Dr. Jonas Miller, has stolen the idea and built his own, Bill rejoins the team for one last mission. 62% on Rotten Tomatoes. This movie was a $90 million budget, turned into $496 million at the box office. We'll get to more on that in a second. The Rotten Tomatoes critics consensus said a high-concept blockbuster that emphasizes special effects over three-dimensional characters. Twister's visceral thrills are often offset by the film's generic plot, so they weren't too high on it. Starring Helen Hunt, Bill Paxton, the legendary and late Phillip Seymour Hoffman, Carl Elwes, and Jami Gertz. Some fun production notes for you guys. This movie was directed by Jean de Bont, who directed Speed and Speed 2 in the mid-90s.
Did not know that.
Nice little run for him. So he goes Speed into Twister into Speed 2 in the mid-90s. Michael Crichton, the author, was paid $2.5 million to write the screenplay for this movie. He also famously wrote Jurassic Park and all of the sequels to Jurassic Park.
Overrated.
Bill Harding's character was set to be played by Tom Hanks. However, he was pulled from the cast and would later work on That Thing You Do as a director instead.
Great movie.
Oh, good God.
Great movie.
Thank you, Lord.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Lord. Can you, well, here's the
Hanks
the
would
scary
have been
thing.
great in
Hanks
this
would have
role.
been great, but That Thing You Do is one of my favorite films of all time. I
should
love
review
that
it.
movie. Oh, I love that movie. That's such
Yeah,
a
it's
fun
not an
movie.
action movie, but we should definitely review that movie.
It's a
we should
fantastic
let's just
film.
review all the Tom Hanks movies.
Yeah.
All 20 blockbusters.
That is so not surprising, though.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you're right, Phil. Tom Hanks would have been the absolute, quintessential guy for this film.
After filming in a particularly unsanitary ditch for the first tornado chase scene, in which Bill and Joe are forced to shelter under an approaching F1 tornado under a short bridge, Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton needed hepatitis shots because they apparently were sick and exposed to hepatitis.
Oh, below that gross bridge? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then Twister went on to earn a total of $250 million at the North American box office, almost $500 million overall around the world, as we said. It became the second highest grossing film of 1996 behind Independence Day and was the 10th highest grossing film in history at the time of its release, making it the most successful Warner Brothers film release, surpassing Batman. In 2001, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone took Twister's record for becoming the highest grossing Warner Brothers film of all time.
And wasn't it I believe when I was doing the Wikipedia and some production notes yesterday too, I think it was the first DVD released in the United States.
Really?
Twister was the first DVD produced in the United States.
Interesting. A lot of interesting facts.
Bill Paxton tragically died.
Yeah.
I didn't
I was reading on
realize
that last
until
night.
I looked that up. That's sad.
Dude,
In a
yeah.
tornado. Yeah. Ironically. It was
No,
not in a
poor guy
tornado.
had the
It was
bad
not
I
a
made that up.
tornado. Yeah.
I made
He had the
that up.
bad ticker.
Bad hearts, man.
So let's get to statements about Twister. We'll start with Judd.
All right, I'm going to start off with the probably what could be considered low-hanging fruit here, but it's worth a discussion. My first statement is very simple. Man, have special effects come a long way. The special effects in this film, and I saw this
They're
in
not.
the
They're pretty.
theater.
They hold up a little bit,
With,
don't they?
oh no. But anyway,
car explosion.
at the time, they were really good. Watching it now, here's one thing, and I would love to see, and I don't know if there would possibly be production notes on this, but you know the one thing that struck me, I think it was the last tornado that they go through. It's very clear it was shot on a nice day. Because as the graphic, right, of the tornadoes approaching and they're trying to hide and run, blah, blah, blah. Watch, you can see it's sunny. Like you
Okay.
can see it's a nice day.
I'm glad you brought this up.
It's a nice day. Like it looks like it's probably 75,
I noticed this.
gorgeous, no wind. And so I'm just saying that in 1996, to be clear, they tried probably as hard as you possibly can. And I remember, it was impressive back then. Watching it in 2022, the shortcomings of it, the special effects, and the fact that they shot on a nice day and didn't try to mask that much at all,
Yes.
it really stands out.
Okay, because one of my notes, I'll just throw it into your statement here, is that the sun's timeline makes no sense in this movie. So this movie is taking place over basically a 24 or less hour period, right? This is all happening. They're not like going home and then coming back, and this is all happening bang, bang, bang in one day. And there's certain parts where it's fully sunny outside, but it's also pouring rain and there's a tornado coming. But then there's also parts where so that house gets destroyed and the aunt, they have to save the aunt. And it's clearly nighttime. It's pitch black because they don't hear the tornado coming. Okay, and then 10 minutes later, it's light out again. So have they been awake all night and now there's a morning tornado happening? Which I agree with you. Now there's a note when I was reading through production notes, or there's a website that has some continuity issues, and one of the big problems with filming was they had too much sunshine, and they on the days they were scheduled to film or whatever, it was just really sunny over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, and they had a hard time cutting that out. So they had to try and do some things with special effects, but it was ultimately not possible to get rid of all of the sun apparently. So yeah, that really stood out. It's like, wait, I thought it was nighttime. Now it's daytime again.
Right.
Is this tomorrow?
But you're also but an F5 is coming at them, which means it would be pitch dark, at noon, right?
Yes,
It would be pitch dark, and they show them, and it's clear that it's very nice outside.
Yeah.
But then here comes the F5, which is the biggest tornado. Anyway, that struck me very quickly.
Okay, that's a fair criticism, Declan.
I'll go with this one. I'm glad I live in a metropolitan area. I understand that living in a metropolitan area has more risks like carjackings or getting jumped or just dealing with the city life that is being in a metropolitan area. But I'll take all of that stew over having to deal with living in the absolute countryside and a dangerous ass tornado coming through. And I get that the odds of an F3, 4, or 5 really coming through your neighborhood in Kansas are probably pretty low, but they're certainly still higher than when you're in when you're in a metropolitan area. They're not going to happen, and there are probably still more of them that come in that tornado alley of Kansas and Oklahoma and whatnot. But I'm glad I live in a metropolitan area. Give me the city risks over having to deal with significant weather blowing over my home. I don't want to have to deal with that at all.
I actually have a really dumb meteorological question here. So even in Minnesota, and I grew up from age 8 through when I graduated high school, living out west of Maple Grove, out in the Corcoran, Buffalo area, which is 30, 40 minutes west of Minneapolis, St. Paul. And the weather out there would always be a lot more questionable at its worst. There would be tornadoes they would usually rip through further west or south. So we weren't in the exact freight train line, but the winds are a little more aggressive. The warnings are a little bit more frequent than when living downtown Minneapolis. I guess my dumb question is, why don't we ever have an F3 rip through the IDS tower? Why do tornadoes avoid big cities?
That's a very good question, Phil. And in fact, they ordinarily and rarely do, but things have changed. Do you guys remember 4 or 5 years ago, Atlanta had one go through downtown, and I think it hit the Georgia Dome. I think it might have been during the SEC basketball tournament, and it was a big deal because it's so rare. And part of the changing of patterns they talked about was the fact that more and more now downtowns and heavily densely populated areas are being hit by tornadoes, which at one time basically didn't happen. Yeah. So it's changed. But yeah, one definitely went through downtown Atlanta and caused a big stir.
Well, North Commons in Minneapolis, like 6-7 years ago, they had like a pretty decent one come through that ripped up some homes and whatnot. So like it's right. Still possible in a metropolitan area, but I don't know the actual science of why it's unlikely that it happens in bigger cities.
Well, I feel guilty now, and I can probably email him, but for research on this movie review, I actually did consult with a meteorologist, Paul. I want to get the pronunciation right. Paul Iniguez, who is a loyal listener of the show. He's been a meteorologist for 20 years with the NOAA, which is the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. So he has been for 2 decades a meteorologist, listens to the show.
Awesome.
And so I'm going to give you my next statement, and I can follow up with that question. But he gave me a bunch of notes and thoughts on this movie, and I'm going to use one of them to respond to my first statement, which is Joe's dad at the beginning of this movie is an absolute moron. There was no need to hold on to that cellar door.
Yes.
He died completely unnecessarily. 100% his own fault.
That's what I said last week. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to read some notes here, and we can sprinkle these in throughout the show. But this is from loyal listener, meteorologist Paul and these are his, just to preface this, these are his thoughts, not the thoughts of his organization, okay?
All right.
And this movie sort of helped spark his interest in getting into the field. He was 15 years old when the movie came out, and kind of pushed him in interest-wise. He'll say up front, there's a lot that this movie actually gets right. For a big-budget Hollywood movie, it should get a lot of credit for being scientifically accurate for the most part. The majority of the scientific jargon the crew was spitting out made reasonable sense, and the scenarios were plausible, although obviously stretched. So that's interesting to know. Mm-hmm. Tornadoes don't suck. There is no suck zone, as Phillip Seymour Hoffman continued to creepily say into the ear of Bill's fiance. Tornadoes are violently rotating columns of air. Yes, the pressure within a tornado is lower, but not enough to suck you out of a storm shelter, as happened to the dad in the opening scene. In fact, he likely would have been fine if he just hung back like the rest of his family. Also, the flying cow was totally unrealistic. How is it swirling around, but the truck driving doesn't move an inch? Doesn't make a lot of sense. So yeah, like, dude, your family is just sitting over there. Why are you holding onto the cellar door? Makes no sense. And I'm glad that a meteorologist has proven my theory to be correct.
Well, and what's so stupid is worst case is the tornado sucks the door off, right? But the tornado's not going to then dip down below ground and get you. So like if you had gone in the corner and basically just waited it out, the worst case is the door comes off, it's gone, but the tornado's not going to then like say, oh, can I come downstairs and kill you too?
Its arm reaches in and grabs you.
I love this point though, because that's one of the main things. And when we teased this film last week, I brought this up, drove me crazy. Like, it's so stupid. Like, have the guy die not getting to that shelter.
You know what we call that? Natural selection.
And plus, so it takes the door, it takes it, Paul, thank you very much. It's Paul, right? Paul, thank you very
meteorologist
much.
Paul. We will hear more from meteorologist Paul. I have some other notes we'll sprinkle in later. But back to Judd here. Statements about Twister.
Okay, I love that one. All right, my statement is this. Bill was just there to get documents signed. So he brings his...
I love that you brought this up.
He brings his fiance... And look, Phil, you read the description, okay? So I'm going to tell you right now, there are so many ways that you could have gotten him for one last ride, right? Like, he's going to get divorced, but she's like, oh, these tornadoes are coming towards us. You've got to help. This is what we were, we basically were married for this. My dad died because of an F5, and we have, like, there would have been so many plausible storylines to be like, okay, that might be a little bit of a stretch. But he brings his fiance to get a document signed. And the next thing you know, they're all chasing tornadoes. Come on.
Yeah, wouldn't he get the document signed? And of course, then she doesn't. It's just like, what's that other movie we did, rom-com, Sweet Home Alabama.
Yes.
Where she goes to get the document signed and then winds up just like being part of the town for a week. And her fiance is like, where are you?
Yes.
Oh, I've just been drinking in Alabama for 3 days trying to get my husband to sign some papers. Yeah. All right, Dex.
All right, on that similar vein, and I have a question to propose to you in this statement. Who is the real villain in this love triangle? So I think each of them kind of have their own weird villainous takes here. So between Bill Paxton, Helen Hunt, and Jami Gertz is the one who plays Paxton's fiance, okay? So Paxton just, wants to get a divorce, right? Like he wants to put this storm-chasing career aside to a degree and start this new life with this now fiance therapist woman and move past it.
He's going to be a meteorologist on TV, right?
Right.
And they were kind of mocking him for like, oh, no, you're doing the lazy thing. It's like, no, I'm making 6 figures probably. Dude, if he's a meteorologist in a fairly big market in the mid-1990s, old Billy's doing pretty well, I think, on TV.
I agree. And I have another statement on my next go-around about just that entire idea of these has-beens and also the professionals. But then also Helen Hunt is still like kind of trying to reel him in, like, hey, I built the thing we've always been talking about, and then like it kind of sucks him back in. And the way I think it ties Jami Gertz into being a potential villain is she is just trying to take away Bill Paxton, whose real love is still storm chasing and probably still is in love with Helen Hunt. She is the least, Jami Gertz is the least of the villainous between the three, but also like, well, what are you doing now enabling him to go back to his ex-wife and go back to this previous life you're trying to take away from him?
I'm going to answer your question with my next statement because she's not enabling him. Here's the answer. Bill treats his fiance like absolute garbage in this movie. Think about all the things. First of all, guy, get your affairs in order. I'm not going to come with you to get these papers signed. And apparently she's like a psychologist too.
Yeah.
She's on the
sex psychologist. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just started making a list of all the things that were just horrible treatment of this poor woman. So patiently waiting on Joe to sign divorce papers while she gets stuck with some creepy storm chaser guy in Phillip Seymour Hoffman who's whispering things like the suck of the tornadoes in her ear. Super creepy. The suck zone or whatever he kept saying. Being forced into chasing tornadoes with the ex-wife. It just like the fact that it took her 10 hours basically to break up with him. I would the first minute that he ditched me to jump in a truck with his ex-wife after not getting the papers signed, I would have said, "What? What are we doing here? This is ridiculous.
Right.
I'm not doing this."
But that's my question. Why didn't they write a more plausible, like there would have been ways to get the Paxton character to the storm chasing that would have made more sense. Makes no sense.
Did you need Jami Gertz in this movie? Because Judd is, by the way, Judd's anti-love interest in all action movies, but you already had the love interest and tension between Joe and Bill. Did you need this weird third wheel that's just sort of sitting in the back seat and a damsel in distress? Just like, they almost like shoehorned her in or something. Oh, we got Jami Gertz on a guaranteed contract. How can we get her in this movie for 25 minutes?
I don't know, but yeah, it felt really weird, and it felt a super forced way to do something that would have been pretty simple to do. Like
and then
he's back, like he loved it. That's fine.
Yeah, and within the span of like, I don't know, 10, 12, or 18 hours, they go from supposedly being madly in love and charging out there together as a team to get those divorce papers signed to just, without really fighting at all, just amicably agreeing, oh yeah, I guess, you know what? Yeah, we probably shouldn't be together. Okay. Enjoy the storm. All right.
I wonder if you're right. I wonder if they got Jami Gertz, they thought that they would need that character, and then as it developed, they're like, we really don't. But I mean, she's a big name. I wonder if you're exactly right. Like if they, because the way that they wrap that entire thing up is just stupid.
Yeah. To your point, I've just been thinking more about how could they have entered the storm chasing with the background of, okay, this is a couple that has some tension, and throughout their chasing of storms, they're going to mend fences. Couldn't they have just been married but on the ropes? Like, couldn't the first 10 minutes of the movie have been showing that they're married, but it's strife and they're on the verge of divorcing for whatever reason because he wants to become a meteorologist and live a different life, and she has a different vision, and as there's this tension brewing, all of a sudden, oh my God, okay, we're being thrust into this epic storm, right? Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't make a lot of sense.
It is weird.
I'm with you on this one. Okay. All right, back to Judd.
All right, more flaws here, but it's great fun. it's fun with flaws, all right? So Jami Gertz's character, who, as Phil said, is a sex doctor of some sort, Melissa. Melissa has, this is 1996, the best cell reception ever invented in the history of cell phones, including today's iPhone, because they are going through tornadoes, like tornadic activity, okay?
Yes.
And she is on the phone with clearly perfect reception with some of her patients. It is the greatest cell. Like, this is 1996.
This is
Also,
great.
why? Like, it's okay to not answer your phone sometimes. Why are you answering your phone five different times?
I think that was supposed to be comic relief of some sort, to like lighten the mood of the movie. I don't know, but I mean, didn't it strike you guys that she's on an old school phone? Like, this is pre-flip phone. This is the ones where you pulled it out and got the antenna up, and she's talking to people, and they're like chasing a tornado that's right by them.
I know I made the same note. I'm like, it drove me nuts how often they're going through this crisis, and there's literally a tornado coming from the left side, and she's just on the phone, like as if.
But how could she be on the phone? Like,
I don't know. It doesn't.
If there were cell towers, they were going to be in Topeka, Kansas by the time that storm was done.
It's so true. Oh my God, it's amazing. Dex.
All right, my next one. We briefly talked about it in the last go around, but I love that they have to include corporate sellouts into storm chasing. I love that they in two different factors of Paxton leaving the little rinky dink group to go be a meteorologist, and then their other cast off who was the guy's name?
Carl Elwes. Yeah.
Carl. Dr. Jonas Miller, who like was part of them, but now has this like absurd team of technology and souped up cars. Like it's hilarious that they somehow are able to fit in corporate sellouts into storm chasing.
Yes.
And I wonder like how many people also view that, because I also know when I wrote for Bring Me the News, and also we probably should have gotten Joe Nelson on this. I know this is Joe Nelson's favorite movie of all time, because I've actually been storm chasing with him before. And he goes on storm chasing stuff all the time.
Just for fun?
Just for fun. He loves it.
Wow.
It was pretty cool.
It's Carrie Elwes, by the way. Not
Carrie
Carl.
Elwes. Yeah. But I working for Bring Me the News, there was sometimes, and it's an unnamed meteorologist in the metropolitan scene that used to DM us, saying that we are enabling weather news, and we're staunching fear into people, and we're not real weather people. And I was reminded of that watching this, because it was these corporate sellouts who are basically trying to take this storm chasing by the throat and like monopolize it, essentially. I found it hilarious that corporate sellouts are literally in storm chasing and weathermen and weatherwomen world.
You know how sometimes there's actors too that they're prominent actors, but like Amber Heard, for instance, with the whole trial thing. I had never seen an Amber Heard movie. I didn't see Aquaman. As far as I know, I've never seen an Amber Heard movie, but she's a very famous actress. And I think I'm pronouncing his name right, but Carrie Elwes, who played the guy that Declan's talking about, the competitive
Dr. Jonas Miller.
Dr. Jones, right? I have seen so many of his movies. I don't know so he was in Saw, he was in Robin Hood Men in Tights, he was in The Princess Bride, Liar Liar, he was in Glory, that Civil War movie with Denzel Washington and Matthew Broderick from the late 80s. I feel like I've seen 100 of that guy's movies. And some other actors or actresses are like, oh yeah, they're famous. I don't remember seeing any of their movies before.
Oh my God. This guy's IMDb page is absurd.
Yes.
He's been in hundreds and hundreds of things.
I know. He's never, I don't, actually, he's also been in Stranger Things. He's the evil, yeah, dude. He's one of the evil.
Mayor. He was Mayor Larry Kine.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, he was the mayor in the second season, I believe.
Yes. Just one of those dudes that's been in so many things.
He was in the Jungle Book.
He's also going to be in a Mission Impossible movie coming up. He's going to be in Dead Reckoning. So, just carving out a nice little career for himself. All right. My next statement. This might be my last statement here. Is I don't understand how the aunt has enough steak, eggs, and food to just randomly sling a meal for like 9 people.
It was incredible.
9 people just stop by randomly. Oh, we're hungry. So by my math, let's say I think there was 8 or 9 people at that well, timing-wise, it looked like a breakfast, but they had already been storm chasing all day. This is where the sun and the timing doesn't make sense. Was it lunch? Was it dinner? It was sunny outside, but again, they had already chased in like 3 different tornadoes. But she would need to, at minimum, she would needed to have cooked 20 to 25 eggs and have had probably, if you're going to do a steak for everyone, you just have 8 or 9 steaks ready to rock. And then all the other sides that she was slinging around them. It looked like an amazing meal, but who has that much food just ready for 8 random people to swing by? I don't know.
I thought it was really weird too, because last night we literally made steaks on the grill, and the gal bought like a thing of 4 steaks, like 4 nice strip steaks, and like 2 of them will obviously feed us handsomely. But I was like, well, what do you want me to do with these other 2 steaks? Like, should I freeze them? Should I keep them? So no, just cook them all, and then we'll eat the other 2 as like leftovers over the next 2 days.
Yeah.
But I thought of that too, and I'm like, how do you just hoard steaks like this? Where did all these steak and eggs come? The eggs I get, like eggs, that makes sense. You can have dozens
But
on
you just
dozens
have
of eggs.
24 eggs in your fridge?
Well, like that one's more easily to obtain than dozens of steaks. Like, because eggs just come in a dozen and they're like $2. So like it's pretty easy to find eggs. But the amount of steak is what blew my mind.
Well, actually, I think one of the guys even asked her, like, oh, how'd you get all these steaks? And she goes, did you see the cows out front? And the guy goes, no. And she goes, exactly. That's a dead cow joke for those of you scoring at home watching Twister. Do you guys have any more statements, and or do you want me to read more facts from meteorologist and loyal listener Paul?
I have
Yes,
one more
read
statement.
more facts.
And you got I got one more statement here. Just that incredible soundtrack that we don't talk enough about. Here are some of the bands that are on the soundtrack for this movie. I looked this up. Van Halen.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Phillip Seymour Hoffman's jamming to in his little storm van when they start going. I think that's a Van Halen song. And then also Soul Asylum, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Goo Goo Dolls, Shania Twain, the entire movie soundtrack. We're not talking about this movie soundtrack enough. It is a very diverse and amazing soundtrack.
Yeah, there's some notes on some different websites just sort of lauding the underrated nature of this soundtrack. Absolutely. Okay, the meteorologist, loyal listener meteorologist Paul here. I'm going to just dump some of these notes from him. Again, these are his thoughts, not his company's. Just want to make that clear. It seemed odd to me that the researchers' motivation to deploy Dorothy was because, quote, no warning system exists. Yet we constantly hear TV meteorologists saying certain counties are under tornado warnings. I think even throughout the movie, didn't they show some of that? Mm-hmm. The first tornado warning was issued in 1948. Today, the National Weather Service issues hundreds of targeted tornado warnings with an average lead time of 10 minutes. So they were trying to get it to 15 in the movie, saying it was like 3 minutes at the time. Now it's 10 minutes, apparently. Mm-hmm. Twister popularized amateur storm chasing, which is actually 18-hour days of driving across the plains, often resulting in seeing nothing. It actually has become kind of a problem. Too many people go out, and some with not enough knowledge of what they are doing, and they clog up rural highways. That's you and Joe.
Yes,
you and
me
Joe
and Joe.
Nelson just on the back roads. A lot of the radar data that they showed in the movie was actual data and used a common research software at the time. One common error in the movie, radar does not tell you if a tornado is on the ground. It only scans the clouds above the ground and tells you how fast raindrops are moving. And then the final note here is there is zero chance. Okay, we have to talk about this. There is zero chance they would have survived a tornado at the end, the F5 at the end. Think about all the debris and stuff.
Yeah.
Massive amounts of debris were flying through the air at 200 plus miles per hour. Think how much it had hurt getting hit by just a wooden shingle moving 200 miles an hour, let alone larger objects. Honestly, they probably would have died or been severely injured with their first tornado encounter holding onto the wooden bridge. But I digress. It's so true.
Yeah.
They were
The cars
running
never
around
blow away.
outside. There's just like fence posts coming at them and stuff. They're not even getting
And they're like
nicked with
ducking
anything.
them. I love how they duck them.
I forget when I went with Joe, first off, I remember he pays like $80 a year for this app that like tells him in-depth weather and tornado facts that are like in the surrounding area. So he was driving the car and I was on his phone, and we were like, we mostly went like south and southwest of the metro. So like we didn't go too far out necessarily. But he was like telling me where this spin area was, or like where this like moisture area was. I was like in charge of reading this map, and we got like underneath a pretty cool funnel cloud. Like it never was a tornado that came down necessarily, but it is remarkable that people like literally go out and do this in their free time.
Yeah.
And just record it like.
Yeah, just like record it, look at it. It is kind of cool. It is a little bit of a rush, like when you're getting close to one. Like it is kind of cool. It is kind of
Sounds very dangerous.
Explain this to me too. Why throughout the course of this film, beginning with the dad who dies, what's the obsession with locking doors? Like everyone, when the tornado is coming, there's like 3 separate scenes where they lock the door.
Well, yeah, I mean, just because the door might blow off.
But that's
if it's
not it's going to
locked?
blow. But the whole building's going to blow up. Like that big tornado that hits at night, and they're all at the outdoor movie. They run into that. I don't know what it is, like huge barn shed.
Yeah.
To go downstairs, which is smart. But they lock the door. They're like trying to lock the door.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it would provide a
Well,
whole lot
I
of
guess
resistance there.
Mr. Tornado can't hit here. The door is locked.
All right, before we get into the definitive villain rankings and the entertainment value rankings here, let's talk about our friends at Aquaside first, Declan, who are helping to power this episode of Action Movie Rewind.
That's right. Aquaside products are easy to use, and they begin working right away. You can go out on the lake in a couple weekends here on the 4th of July and notice a nice clear lake. You don't want to step into that algae or that lake weed that hits the bottom of your foot, but especially when you're on a nice pontoon ride. It's the last thing you want to see. And Aquaside can help you take care of that lake weed and algae, and they can get it removed for you with their Aquaside pellets. This do-it-yourself product. They walk you through how to use it. Also, the shipping is free. And these products are registered with both the EPA and the DNR, so they are safe products. They're located in White Bear Lake here in the Twin Cities, but also you can go to aquaside.com to learn more. Aquaside.com to learn more.
All right, boys. These are the definitive villain rankings here. Or, we give it a rating, and then we rank it based on the ratings here. So to this point, we've reviewed 4 action movies in the reboot of the franchise here. We did like 55 of these a couple years ago. And we're going to do a bunch of re-reviews, but this is one we've never reviewed before. So Surfer Bodie from Point Break is the top villain so far, a 7.3 out of 10. The British car-loving gangster in Gone in 60 Seconds was a 1.3 out of 10 for us. And then Personal Demons, the villain in Top Gun Maverick and Top Gun the original, both got a 1 from us. So we're looking for how iconic is the villain, how ruthless is the villain, and how charismatic is the villain. And to me, the villain in this movie is an F5 tornado.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what they're chasing. That's what killed her father. That's what the big showdown was at the end against an F5 tornado. So on a 1 to 10 scale, we'll start with Judd here. How would you rate the F5 tornadoes in Twister as a villain?
Well, considering that the special effects now don't ring true as they did then, probably, and that it's got no personality, but it does go like that. Like it's hilarious when it comes. It's like breathing. It's got that tornado thing. I'll give it a 3.
A 3?
3?
I'll give it a 3. Yeah.
A 3, dude.
It's a
what?
tornado.
But it's a fake tornado, and it's now not as plausible.
Surfer Bodie is a fake character. Like, how far down that path do you want to go?
I'm going to give it right, but what I'm saying is it's fake, and it's 1996 fake, and it's not as good as it should have been, and it comes out on sunny days. It's fine, but it's a 3. It's got no personality. It doesn't have a big enough personality.
I think because it's not a human, it doesn't have the personality. It is scary. It doesn't have a human error to it. And it literally sucks up homes and cows and all this stuff. I know the cows thing wasn't true, but it's terrifying. I would give it I give it a 7. I give it a 7 out of 10.
I'm your
Okay, a 3 and a 7. So here's my logic on this. Let's go through the criteria. How iconic. The movie is called Twister. It was literally one of the biggest selling movies at the box office in the history of cinema at the time. So from an iconic standpoint, it's a 10. Ruthlessness, it's an F5 tornado. It's killed someone right at the beginning of the movie. It's eating up houses, people's lives. So from a ruthless standpoint, it's a 10. All right, charisma, this is where it gets weird because it's an inanimate object. It's a weather pattern. And so maybe for the charismatic score, maybe we can ding it for bad special effects or something. But so I'm going to ding it a little bit on the third piece of criteria, but it's a 9 for me. The movie is called Twister.
Wow.
It's one of the most iconic movies of my lifetime.
I need Bill or Joe to die to raise it up.
What?
It leaves Bill and Joe
alone. In what
alone.
action movie does the hero die at the end?
You could kill one of them.
The late I can't. Should I spoil it? I shouldn't spoil it.
Well, and you should have killed, and they should have killed Jami Gertz. At the very least, kill her. In fact, you know what? It would have been better if they had killed her, and that's how Joe and
I will
Bill
agree with that. They should have. They
get
probably
back
should
together.
have. They probably should have killed her. I will agree with that.
I'm digging it.
It would have been another reason for them to come together. Okay, this gal's gone now. So
Yeah,
That
we
tornado
and
put
you're
like a
responsible.
pole through Dr. Jonas and what's his name? Like that would be a horrible
Yes.
way to die,
Did
dude.
you-
And then get sucked up in that hilarious explosion at the bottom.
I was going to say that dinged it too. That explosion was the most. It's like, give that a little more work, huh?
all right, let's go to the end of the overall. So by the way, it's a 6.3 score. So it's now the second most highest ranked villain in our rankings here behind Surfer Bodie. Can't believe you give it a 3. All right, entertainment value on a 1 to 10 scale. Twister. So Top Gun Maverick is a 9.3. Top Gun, the original, 8.3. Point Break, 7.8. Gone in 60 Seconds, a 4.7.
The entertainment value to me was actually, because of faults as well, pretty high. I'm going to give this film, I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay.
I give it a solid 7. It's definitely has stopping ability on the TV to it, right? Like if you're doing the channel surfing and you see Twister, I'm probably watching at least a couple through the commercial breaks. Maybe not the whole thing start to
I was going
finish.
to say, yeah, I
I don't know if I'd finish, but I would definitely stop and maybe dabble after the first commercial break too. It's a 7 out of 10. I think it's a 7 out of 10.
I'm right there with Declan. It's a good, solid movie. I don't know. It's not one that I'm dying to, like, anytime a Rocky movie comes on, I'm just like, yes, this is amazing.
Yeah, you don't
Twister,
stop.
all right.
I don't.
Well, I'll stop on Twister if it's late at night or something, and there's no commercial break. So it's a good, solid movie. It's some interesting actors and actresses in here. So it's a 7 for me, which makes it a 6.7 score between us, ranking it just ahead of Gone in 60 Seconds on the standings and below Point Break. So there you have it.
I think that's very fair.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna do Face Off next week. We've had so many requests for Face Off. I know we already did a Nicolas Cage movie in here, but we'll get another one out of the way.
Travolta, right?
Travolta and Nicolas Cage at their absolute peak in the mid 1990s. Face Off is 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is a little over Judd's runtime. But
I might have to break this up.
okay,
This scared the crap out of me when I first saw it as a kid.
really,
I saw this way too young. It's just the idea scared the bejesus out of me.
very
I was-
innovative movie.
Yeah.
Do you know what this movie's about, Judd?
No, I remember when it came out, but I didn't see it.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll let you watch it.
Yep.
It's an interesting plot, and I'm sure that'll be a major topic on the
Face
statements
Off.
next week.
All right.
Face Off with Nicolas Cage and John Travolta. We have not done this movie before. It sounds like Judd has never seen it before, and it's been about 20 years since I have seen it. I rented this VHS, or I'm sorry, I got this VHS as a gift at like Christmas or birthday when I was a kid. The VHS copy. So there you go. Action movie rewind here, where we do deep dives, way too deep dives into the most popular action movies in the world. We'll see you guys next week and on Monday for Mackey and Judd.